James, hello, welcome. Obviously, this is very familiar surroundings for you. We're here at the club that you've been in charge of for a very long time. We're going to talk today about that coming to an end and a long kind of historic chapter at the club. And obviously your dad as well, Bill. I think he is probably where the story all begins. Do you want to start off with kind of how the Colwill family became involved with Heaton Stand in the first place?
Firstly, thank you, Reem. Appreciate your time. Appreciate this moment. I grew up a few streets away. My family home is still there, where my family, mother and father still live. You might be shocked, 45 years ago is when I, came into that household. And the journey pretty much started then. My father was already involved in the club then. So his story will stretch back half a century, 50 years. Obviously I didn't do a lot back then for the club. And throughout the years, grew different roles, different journeys, but all as a volunteer, voluntary run local club, and my uncle, my dad's brother, got involved. Many as players, at the time, their age, they were players. And then their journey continued. My dad's continued to be pretty much every single role that is imaginable within a voluntary football club. And a voluntary social club. At times he's been more involved with social sides and football sides and vice versa. And then I came along and again over the years have grew into various different roles. My background's in sport, a degree in sports science, worked in performance sport for a number of years out of university. So started to get involved primarily as first aider physio. Back in, like I say, about 15 years ago. I was actually working at St James's Park for the 2012 Olympics as a doping control station manager when the infamous Gabon game happened here.
Yeah.
So it all sort of came around, and that was when I started to get a little bit more involved with Derek and his team, Derek and Jeff. And then it just kind of spiralled from there. And that was how it all started, Liam.
Is that how the Gabon game came about? Did you sort of just collar Aubameyang in the tunnel at St James's and go, do you fancy playing down the road?
Ironically, it was nothing to do with me. It was Jeff who actually set it up. Jeff had some links who agents who had agents related to there. They came over early for the Olympics, a lot earlier than most teams would normally. So we're looking for some games rather than constantly training. And Jeff managed to organise that game. So
yeah, and it's obviously something that we still kind of talk about all the time now. There's a shirt in the clubhouse, and we talk about it a lot. So it's a really big moment. Obviously, there's a lot of big moments, and obviously just going back to your dad, we had the Senior Cup final just last year, and your dad played in that game, which was obviously an amazing thing that the history connects sort of the last time they were there and this time and won this time. I mean, that must have been a really special moment for you and your family when all that was going on this day in May last year.
yeah, that was without a doubt. I mean, just to clarify, he didn't play in the most recent game.
Yeah, no, that's yeah.
But yeah,
he was on the bench, though, wasn't he? He was ready to come on, wasn't he?
But yeah, I mean, it obviously brought memories flooding back. Again, flooding back of me being however old I was at the time, 10 years old, and being the mascot running out on the pitch. And then obviously, I believe 30 odd years later, being involved as the chairman of the football club and, standing, eventually holding that trophy with my dad was quite an emotional and proud moment, 30 years from seeing him play there, coming back here, enjoying all the celebrations in what was a very different clubhouse. Again, that is kind of when we talk about, often when we have these conversations, it all revolves around football, which of course it does, because it's Heaton Stanton Football Club. But the clubhouse we're sitting in was like built by my family, and many others, of course. There is many other people were involved in those projects, but this was a voluntary built building. I was here holding steel girders up while my father had retired, so I was spending a lot of time here. And it's all those things which are the proud memories which give you the foundations to allow other things to succeed within football. What happens out on the pitch is generally the manager's job, and whoever's the manager at that time, they do that. But anyone who is involved on this side of things will know how much work goes into it. And like I say, this clubhouse that I'm sitting in right now is single-handedly built by them. So.
Yeah, and I think the club, certainly in my time here, but I know from folks who've been here longer than I have, will always speak about the sort of the community feel that it has. I think it's renowned, Heatonstown, for being a community club. It's kind of, you know, the volunteers are at the heart of it, and obviously the family connection that you've got with your dad and your uncles. There is that kind of family connection, you know, literally in the bricks of it, like literally, as you say there, like the foundation of this club, you know, is the Colwill family. I mean, that's got to be really special.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, the nostalgia of the place is wherever I go, oh, which one's your dad? Is it Billy or Mickey? You know, I get that forever. And I like to think that I've continued a little bit of that tradition on, and, you know, been proud to carry the name and being proud to be part of the club. I think most people who are involved in this sort of thing generally fall into it for similar reasons. Yes, of course, there's many people will join on that journey, you know, but the fundamentals are very much, I was born into it. You know,
I had no choice.
Yeah, well, you could say that. I mean, it's been extremely enjoyable. Obviously, has frustrations throughout the time, but extremely enjoyable and still is. But yeah, I mean, it's proud. I mean, I was in town the other day with my jacket on. Someone said I used to play for them many years ago. There's way older than my dad, even, you know, who was didn't know them. But just it makes you proud, you know, to represent the club. You know, even when you're not here, you know, when you're out around in the northeast and in the city, makes you proud.
And I think, you know, just thinking about like that, about those people who've been attached to the club at one point and you know, remember it really fondly. You know, you'll have seen over the years, I dare I say, hundreds, maybe even thousands of different players through the doors over the years. Fans, you know, just volunteers. Like you may not even realise when you're doing it, but you've made a real personal connection with so many people, more than some people will ever make in a lifetime. You've done that just through this football club. I mean, that's like, it's astonishing.
I mean, I appreciate it. Thank you. You know, it's something that you mentioned there about wanting to be a community club, wanting to treat people, in my opinion, the way they should be treated. You know, you always should treat someone the way you would like to be treated personally. Yes, there's a football match goes on. Yes, we all want to win that. But it massively goes hand in hand with everything else. I'll never forget the first year in the Northern League when we won the Most Hospitable Award. And that meant so much to me that coming into... There was lots of conversations about coming from where we were in the Northern Alliance, coming to the Northern League, lots of fears on my behalf in terms of, do we have enough volunteers? It's a big step up going from there to where we did it into the Northern League. Could we do it? And we wanted to do it right. You want to make everyone come here and feel like it's home. And to win that award was extremely proud for me. I wouldn't say it meant more than other things, but I feel that all equal. And those things will never ever, I mean, that's just my nature, you know, those things will never ever lose me. That I get as much pride as someone coming here going, hey, it's a lovely place here, it's winning a game. You know, managers, players, etc., they come and go. So, like you said, so the volunteers, so the supporters, but the minute everyone walks through the door, they're all a family to me, you know. We'll talk about this family, which obviously is the reason I come, but I like to embrace everyone into the family, you know. That's my passion, that's what it's about. And if people leave here, win, lose, or draw with a smile on their face, I know that I've done something right, or we've all done something right.
Yeah. You've always made me feel very welcome. I know that any of the volunteers would say the exact same thing. And I think the community feel that the club has is really infectious. I think I've got mates who are red and white, but they like coming here, and they, you know, it kind of sickens them that they're cheering for a black and white team, but you know, that's the kind of thing that it has. I think as I say, the infectious feel of the community feel, and just how together everyone is, and the football, as you kind of allude to there, is almost secondary sometimes, just because what's being built here is just so special on and off. You kind of mentioned there about the award for being hospitable. That was kind of first season in the Northern League, but obviously there's memories probably going further back than that. Is there any kind of standout achievements either on or off the pitch that kind of spring to mind as special for you?
I mean, off the pitch, we've mentioned a couple of them already. The hospital award, of course, the building we're sitting in. You know, my memories go back to probably roughly where we are now was where the changing rooms originally were. Nice. Like I say, that would have been 35 to 40 years ago. They then moved to, when St James's Park had redevelopments, they had some big new porta cabins. We managed to acquire them after that, and they were then where our container is now, next to the snack hut. And then eventually we have them where they are now. So this development of this building and all of the infrastructure, which led on to the conversations regarding, we'd been very successful in the Northern Alliance for a number of years. What was next? At the time, Derek Thompson was the manager, very ambitious and wanted to push this club into the Northern League, which panicked everyone at first because it was the Northern League, we can't compete with that, you know, etc., etc. But he twisted arms, particularly my dad's and then mine. And that was a very long-winded, arduous task through the grant system, etc., Football Foundation. And it's quite common. A lot of people know that this ground was a former quarry, which is why the pitch is the way it is.
It's got character, isn't it? It's got
character. Yeah, without a doubt. And I think a picture came out this week regarding a game against Bishop Auckland, however many years ago. I've seen it many times before. It had a lot more character back then than what it does now. So anyone who comes now and says that, they should have seen what it was like. But yeah, I mean, again, when I was 5-10 years old, we dug this up, and you don't even want to know what was underneath it. But typical quarry material. So yes, trying to get floodlights in here was probably a year to 18 months, 2 years of absolute pain. There was many times in that period where I actually thought it wasn't going to happen. Trying to put floodlights in, they just sink. You know, trying to put concrete in. Weeks, months of headaches. Will it work? Will it not work? So getting the floodlights up and putting floodlights on was like an extremely proud moment, you know. Like I said, that's trying to, pardon the pun, not take the shine off the football. But all of that sort of stuff, you know, it laid the platform for what could come in the Northern League and then where we are now. So some extremely proud moments of getting those headaches done. Football-wise, I mean, the first few years in the Northern League were pretty electric. Top of the league, you know, at Christmas. It didn't end the way anyone would have wanted, but you know, considering the years earlier, we were concerned what the journey would look like, and if we could compete, we more than competed for that whole time. I think the real standouts then become, I don't think I'll ever forget that second division playoff game. I'm not ashamed to admit I hugged my dad and shed a tear, you know, because it just seemed like all of those years of shall we, all seemed to just come together in that moment. Club captain Ryan Bailey, you know, it just seemed everything aligned. So I don't think I'll ever forget that. And then you've already mentioned the St James's Park game, so I think that was kind of the icing on top of this long cake. You know, that's been built over all these years.
I mean, you've said it there, things like putting floodlights up and getting things building clubhouses, all really important things that maybe some supporters or just some people may not recognise or realise how much work goes in. You know, there's probably a lot of stuff behind the scenes that supporters will never know about, infrastructure-wise, that have to happen to progress or stay afloat in some cases. I think especially kind of in this generation of the Sky Sports fans who've grown up and don't think about the how important certain things, getting things right are. So when you have those big payoff moments like the Senior Cup final or promotions or, you know, just challenging or just a big game or a big crowd, like there's so much work that goes into that. People maybe don't don't appreciate.
Without a doubt, like you say, there's 3,000 people or whatever at St James's who were all cheering about winning it. A few months earlier, we get an email saying that you've passed the ground grading, and we're in the house celebrating that. As if it's like a win. It's exactly like you say. It's all those little things. The ground grading now, we had to do more to be at this level, and the way they're going, they would have to do more again. And it's all those little things that give the directors, the committee, the headaches over the years. Is how do you get over those challenges? Everyone else. I mean, you don't get 3,000 people turning up when we're building floodlights. They're not really interested in that side of it. They're very grateful for it, but like you say, they come to watch the football. But like you say, without all the things that go before it, then this wouldn't be here. So they all come together, and they're all as equally as fantastic as each other, to be honest.
I think any committee member or owner or anybody involved at that level of football club will say that, just all of those headaches and stuff are worth it in the end.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, you probably think not, but that's part of being a volunteer. It's part of being involved, the ups and the downs. And if you're involved in this sort of thing for the thanks, then you might as well just give up now, because you're not going to get that. You have to understand what it's all about, and you have to understand the reasons you're involved. And like you say, I mean, there isn't a job that hasn't been done here, from making a cup of tea, making hot dogs, being in there, being a gate man, washing dishes, every single thing, cutting grass, every single thing needs done. And if that's something where it's frowned upon, it's just not for you. And hey, don't get me wrong, I'm not for 1 minute saying that I love making hot dogs or I love cutting the grass or anything like that, but it does give you that little bit of enjoyment knowing that you've contributed in somehow to whatever's going to be next.
Is it kind of astonishing to think about when you think about being that sort of 10-year-old child to where the club is now, to be like in the actual pyramid system at this level at step 8, like the club's evolved so much even from when I started coming here 4 years ago. So for you going back that far, I mean the contrast, and could you have ever believed, or would you have ever fathomed at all that we'd be kind of in this position now that you've kind of been
Absolutely not. Absolutely not in a million years. I live in the present, I very much do, like reflecting is something that's not a great strength of mine. I look forward rather than back. That's, professional at work and everything. And it's not until we decided to sit down and do this and this summer that I did start reflecting, and the whole story just became a little bit more amazing, really. Like you say, when you actually reflect of where it was 40 years ago, where it was 30, 20, etc., etc. And I think where we are now, I never in my wildest dreams, like I say, a lot of this is talked about joining the Northern League, and me being extremely sceptical about whether we would have anyone, like I say, anyone who's been involved will know that the higher up the pyramid you go, the more things need done. There's more requirements of being at this level. That's on the pitch, off the pitch, supplying this, supplying that, directors, guests, press, everything. Back in the day, 15 years ago, it was like, no, you don't need any of that. You just come up, you play football, and that's the game done. Maybe put a little bit of food on after, and that was kind of what it was, and then it's grown to where it is now. And I was concerned we couldn't do the Northern League, to then now be in the Northern Premier League East. And to think that, probably good timing, that yesterday a club which not long ago was one step above and 2 steps above now is knocked out a Premier League team, makes it quite scary as to what that gap is, or how small that gap is. I don't mean to the Premier League, I just mean in terms of the semi-professional nature of kind of where we are now compared to when you reflect back to where it's been. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And I think, again, going back to the kind of the community feel and the kind of the core values of the club, like, we've done that growth, at least in my experience, and again, from people I've spoken to, it's been with really good people at the heart of that, like, on the pitch, off the pitch. There's just been that core of really good people driving in the same direction. I'm sure that's going to continue.
It's getting harder. Don't get me wrong, Liam, that's definitely getting harder. It's been something that has been key to the growth in terms of looking after supporters. That's why, I mentioned about the most hospitable award, it made me so proud. And that was the fundamentals as to why crowds and we get a good following right now. That's what I believe. Yes, we live in a populated area, which is really good, but giving supporters a reason to come, you know, and wanting them to come and hugging them when they come, you know, metaphorically, you know, not necessarily physically, but metaphorically showing that they are the people we care about, wanting to put a product on the pitch, but also wanting to put a product off the pitch. Refurbishments of the bar, things like that, you know, making sure that when people come, they enjoy it here. And all of that has been really key to all of these steps of progress. Yes, but what do we do about people? How do we make them, you know, we're now in the Northern Premier League, how do we look after them now? How do we make them still want to come? And don't get me wrong, like I say, it is becoming more difficult, and some people have different ideas as to different things that fell by the wayside. You have to try and get the balance right of progressing a football club and bringing everyone on the journey. Not everyone will want to come on the journey, because some people don't like the journey, some people don't like a higher standard of football, some people like it when it's down here, you know. Obviously, the main reason, or a lot of the reasons that people like the non-league football, is because you can talk to players, you can see a blood and guts, they come in here, they have a drink, you know. It's not like the distant nature at the very top where you can see Premier League footballers just walk past people, they're not interested, get X amount of money, and that's what it's all about, you know. Of course, the higher you go, you have to become more professional, because players have to be more professional, and if players are got to be more professional, you've got to be more professional off the pitch. You've got to push things forward, merchandise, sponsorship, etc, etc. But of course, try and not to lose all of your core values. Like I say, you will lose some of them, because that's the sacrifice you have to make in order to progress everything. I find it hard at times, because my background is very much here, you know, the family element of being involved and just being the friends with everyone, to have to sacrifice small bits of that in order to ensure that the club and the team can progress at the level it has done.
I think you've struck the balance well. There might be times that you feel like it's an unsolvable puzzle, but I think at least to this point, I think things have been a success.
And I appreciate that, but I mean, don't get us wrong, you know. I lurk on social media, I say everything, I say the negative comments, and every negative comment grinds on us, because I don't want that, but it's hard not to, because everyone, as a club goes, you get 100 people, 200, 300, 400, all the way up to 2,200 at the second playoff game. It's 2,200 opinions. You can't please everyone, but it still hurts me personally, because I just think, well, what could I have done to make them? What could I do to answer that question? What could I do to satisfy them? And it's really hard to like accept that you can't. You know, it's really difficult. You know, if 2,200 people walked out here and there was no negative comments, it would be a miracle. Yeah. But that had always been my aim. Yeah. You know, so as it grows, it is more difficult. I see every negative comment and I think, oh, what can we do? How can we react to that? And I'll often have little conversations with people and try and explain, you know, everything's about communication. I feel that's huge, you know, as we're progressing. There's no secrets here. We are who we are, you know. Try and just be nice to people. No matter how this changes and how it goes, just be nice.
Well, that's why I'm proud to be part of the club. I think that fits with me as well. Like, I think it's always felt like a nice environment, and it's long may that continue. So that's great. Obviously, in the last few months, you've announced that you were stepping away. Can you just tell me a little bit about how tough that was? Because obviously your involvement goes back so far, and it's a deep family thing with your dad as well. Just how tough was that to kind of get to that decision?
Yeah, I spoke to my father in the summer, and he kind of said to me that, you know, he's getting on, he's in his late 70s, and everything we've just spoke about there, about the nature of the club and how it's progressed, how it's more of a challenge now, on and off the pitch. The requirements off the pitch are a lot more demanding now. It is all still voluntary run, but very much need to lean on some expertise because it's technical now. And then he decided that, you know, at the age he is, and when he said that to me, there's a few things going on with myself off the pitch as well. You know, just family. I'm a different person now. I'm old. I'm a married man. it felt like the right moment that I need to rebalance my life, you know, and I need to spend more time with my family. Like I said, my dad isn't getting any younger, and for a huge amount of the last 10, 15 years, we've had a Heaton Stand Football Club relationship, and it really felt like the moment to get a father and son relationship back and work on that a lot more. Too many conversations, I call them conversations, but I might as well be brutally honest, too many arguments regarding the length of the grass, anything along those lines, you know, and it probably hit home to me that how long it had been since I'd picked the phone up and said, how are you? You know, it was always like, this isn't on, I'm not happy about this needs to change, we need this, I've had a manager on, they want this, they want that, you know, and it was, you know, and it was just, it was like the sort of penny dropped and thought, yeah, you need to readdress things. And it's been very hard, I will be honest, you know, when something's as prominent in your life as what it has been. Saturdays, my whole life have been football, but will continue to be football. That is me. I've got a very, very understanding wife who married into the family. She's been involved here and will continue to be involved. She's very aware that Saturdays will always be there. But it was at the point where, you know, I don't think there's many people at this club have seen a Heaton Stand game when I haven't been there. You know, I didn't miss games, you know, and that was the length and breadth of the country. And it was probably putting a little bit of pressure on some other things, family events, that sort of thing, where if anyone wanted to do anything, well, James will not be there. You know, and it was at that point, like I say, that how do we address the balance? So it's been extremely difficult to start the season, especially coming here. I felt like a spare part, you know, to a strange degree. Didn't feel like I should be here, but I think that's just me. I'm all or nothing, you know, and I have found it really hard to be here without being involved in the same capacity. But the last few months I've managed to readdress that, and it's been so enjoyable coming here and watching a game of football and actually enjoying it and not worrying about the impact of what that game's going to be or the impact of where this is going to end up or what's going to happen. Still travelling the length and breadth of the country, kicking, heading every ball, and I can safely say I am really, really enjoying it. Having an unbelievable season, and like I say, I can thoroughly enjoy it. I can thoroughly be in the background enjoying it. I've missed a few away games and I haven't felt guilty. You know, I haven't felt the pressure of I've got to be there, I've got to be there, I've got to be there. Every Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting everything ready, I'm getting prepared. I'm either up here doing whatever I'm doing. You know, my Saturday mornings can be spent with my in-laws who need me at the minute, you know, doing that sort of thing. Sometimes that takes longer, so unfortunately I can't get places like Lincoln, you know, but I will be here every Saturday. You know, and a number of people have said, similar to yourself there, Liam, do you have any regrets? And I've always said to them that I think it's an easy thing for me to answer because I've took a bit of a step back as being a director here and being the chairman of the football side of things to spend more time with my family. And that's something I can never regret. You know, I can never regret putting my family first. You know, I maybe feel a little bit guilty after I made the decision that I maybe should have done this a little bit earlier because, you know, family should always come first. But that's life and you readdress things now and who knows where I'll be in 10 years' time, you know. Yeah. Will I be back? And like you say, when I say back, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. I'm just not a director anymore. I don't have that position of responsibility. But I'm here to support the people who are. I do as much as I possibly can. I'm still out here putting divots right in the pitch and still working behind the bars and when it's needed. Yeah. You know, still quiz every other week, you know. I'm very much an integral part, not going anywhere, but just had to sort of readdress the balance, you know, spend more time with the family.
I think it'll come as a comfort to a lot of people to hear you say that you're, as one of the first friendly faces that you see when you come in the ground. That's not going to be changing. You're still going to be, and you have been a big presence here. We've still sat in the media box watching the game together, but now I guess you can just watch it, and as you say, you're not thinking about, that player's gone off injured. We have to get this player in, and they're going to have to Like, you can just. That's somebody else's problem.
yeah, exactly. And obviously, like I say, I'm not going anywhere. If I see things, I point them out, and I want to help to put those things right. Just if it doesn't go right, the stress doesn't land on my door, which therefore then impacts my ability to support my family and things like that. So it's nice being able to pick and choose. Previously, I never felt like I had that option because, like I say, I'm all in. I'm 100%. And everything was my business, my issue, and everything else I just pushed to one side. Now we're just trying to get that balance right of supporting the club as much as I can, but without sacrificing things like family.
And I think probably a lot of people will hear this, and they may be not to the extent of owning a football club, but there has to be in their life that they're just doing because they feel like they have to, and there's an obligation there, and they're so deep in it, but they've got family issues or something that they I think this could be a bit of a thing for people that might kind of make them think, it is okay just to move on, I guess, but you can still keep your hand in as you are, which is really great to hear. But you've made a right choice for you and your family, which is, I think, the takeaway. Yeah,
that's my takeaway from everything. That I can't regret putting my family first. It's as simple as that. It means something's got to sacrifice a little bit. I hope it doesn't sacrifice too much. Like I say, I still want to enjoy heading and kicking every ball, and still want to see this club grow and progress, and I'll do everything possible to try and support that, and just kind of readdressing the balance.
Well, it's good to hear. It's nice. We should be really proud, I think, to make that choice and to as you say, like if you're a person who lives in the present or the future, to have that chance now to reflect. I bet it was quite overwhelming just to think about all of that time and all of those achievements. When you kind of put your brain in that mode, I mean, are you going to kind of be more in that mode going forward now, thinking about those times? I mean, you've got so many stories to tell, family going forward now.
I think so. I mean, like I said, I grew up here. Primary school just across the road, secondary school just down the road. A lot of my family and friends live around here. We're all getting a little bit older now, so they're all now having kids. We've now got the junior section, which has been an absolute, probably again another highlight, because that just showed the growth of the club. And like I say, because I'm from round here, I used to kind of get a little bit sick of seeing little kids running around with not black and white heat and stand tops on, and all the junior sections had emerged around here. When Neil came on board, and sort of the first vision he came on board with was that, and I was like fully on board with that. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about the growth and development of the club. That was something that I was just a massive yes towards. If we can put something for the High Heaton community, for all of these little kids to embrace some organised sport, to keep them fit, healthy, happy, that was a primary goal. I know that obviously parents, when they get involved, it all becomes, that's the starting point, and it all becomes very, a bit more professional and a bit more, they want to win and, performance related. But the whole thing of the junior section for me has just been an absolute fantastic idea to get many people in the local community. Like I say, because of the age I'm at now, seeing lots of my friends, kids playing on the teams is extremely proud. And that's obviously thanks to Neil and all the work he's done, which has been absolutely brilliant. That growth is continuing, which I can only believe will just support this club and give it much stronger foundations. Like we've all got that pipe dream of someone who joined at whatever age, from the little kickers at 2, 3, 4 years old. If one of them ever plays, for the first team here, that's like one of the happiest memories ever. We had our first joint presentation 2, maybe 3 years ago. I got emotional, just seeing all the little kids there and they eat stand tops. Like, it's those sort of things, like I say, that really tick the box. Make you proud. Like that's what High Heaton's about for me. Being like involved in the local community and showcasing, kind of pulling all your friends together and stuff like that, and keeping it all in that family. So yeah, long may all that continue.
And that investment, again, it's something that I've just seen in my years here, is the investment in those young aspiring footballers, but also kind of young supporters have come in here, and like those kids are going to go to school and tell their mates about, you know, go to watch Eton Stand, and it's a totally different experience to, you know, St James's Park or what have you, but it's special. And I think the investment in that, you know, young players, young supporters, that just continues the legacy that you've built and you've been part of for many years to come, doesn't it? Like, it's the future for this club is exponential because of that kind of investment at grassroots level.
100%. You know, the kids, the parents, they've all got a big part to play in this club moving forward. If some of them play fantastic, if some of them end up watching, if some of them end up being a member of staff behind the bar, if some of them end up helping with the pitch, you know, that's what it's all about, you know, and that infrastructure just underpins anything moving forward. Like I said, am I going to reflect constantly reflecting back now to 20 years ago, going, wow, never ever thought that. I didn't think we had enough volunteers to go in the Northern League. And now, like you say, the opportunities are just endless. But a lot of hard work to get to that point. You know, huge amounts of conversations, but that's where we are now. You know, all the hard work from every committee member, every volunteer, you know, to put the whole thing in place to move forward.
Well, we thank you for everything you've done. We thank you and your entire family. We wish your family all the best. We hope everything, you know, that you have, that to this time that you have now with your family is, you know, everything that you want it to be and that it can be. And I guess now we're looking at the future and we're looking at the kind of the next year, and you've kind of mentioned Neil there. We're going to bring Neil in and kind of talk a little bit about kind of what the future holds with the context of everything that you've done as part of that. So James, thank you very much.
No problem, thank you.
Neil, hello.
Hi.
You've just been here while we've been chatting to James. I mean, there's probably a lot of things that you want to say. James is still in the room for those watching, so this might be a bit strange, but yeah, you obviously heard that conversation there, and I'm sure you'll agree that, you know, James has got a lot to be proud of, and the state that he's left the club in for you and Scott to pick up. You know, you probably couldn't have wished for much better than that.
No, 100%, Liam, and I'm glad we're here. I think, obviously, I spoke with Bill and James over the summer, and they told us what they were thinking about doing. Bill was very much, I want to slip away quietly. I don't want to make a fuss, and James was the same at the time, and we accepted that. And then I think it was a few games into the season, I came here and started speaking with James. I spoke with some of his family, and it just wasn't sitting right with me. So me and James had a conversation at the Calm Van with Bill, and we had a conversation about doing this. James was like, yeah, I think it's a good idea. Bill, not so much. But I think it's really important when you've been at somewhere for so long that you get the opportunity to say thank you, first and foremost, but also go through that history. And also just the bits James reiterated about it's not the end, he is still around. We've had conversations. I think from mine and Scott's perspective, that's really important, that we're here because of what has been built at this club and because it's a community club. And I don't want anyone to think that this wasn't James or Bill's decision, that we weren't respecting their wishes. But also I think getting this moment just to take 30 seconds to say thank you and say that really we're building upon that legacy. Like James said, the club is different now. It's different to when I came in 4 years ago and started the juniors with 7 teams, and where we are now, it's huge, and it's going to take more volunteers, but it's also going to take people like James and Bill and their experience and speaking to them and still relying on them. I know I could call James any day and he would give me advice, and that's just awesome. So without taking up too much time, it is just a thanks to both of them for their years of service, and that goes for every other volunteer who worked alongside them who are no longer here. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing where the club goes. It is at a point where it's going to keep growing, and yeah, just thanks, James, for everything that you've done. Same to your dad, although he's not here. And I think going back to that photograph, seeing photographs like that from the past bring it all back. There's been lots of talk on Facebook about how soft players are these days when you look at the pitch compared to what it is now, and you talk about the lengths of grass, and it's the same as it was then, right? It's all about getting games of football on, and our job kind of stops for 90 minutes when the kids are playing or the first team are playing, so that comes with a lot of hard work. James and Bill and lots of others have done their time, and it's time for me and Scott to take that forward with the help of the club. But I know James, Bill, still around, still have our conversations at the can van and outside the changing rooms, and that'll continue throughout this season and forward.